Hey look, Reid is being a despicable racist again. Must be a day that ends in Y. Can I just ask, because we've seen so many pundits get the sack lately, how in the bollocks has she managed to keep her job? Whoever is in charge of the affirmative action at these networks must be smoking some nuclear-level ganja or some shit. Because my word, every visible anchor we have seen get the axe lately, as far as I know, has been, white. The ones that didn't are still there. Credibility still shot the hell, and the ratings, much like Nancy Pelosi's eyebrows, still keep going down. I'm not saying anything, the ratings are doing that for me. I legitimately despise her. She is everything I can't stand in a person. She's ignorant as all hell, she's racist, she's a compulsive liar, she smears people constantly, she's not white. I had some reservations about whether or not to put in that joke. I thought that might make it funnier, some top keck stuff right there. Buddy of mine, Zach, he wanted me to work in that phrase. I have no idea why. But anyway, this woman, you know what's the funniest thing about her? Despite being named Joy, she is a miserable wench. The irony is as well, if Joy Reid is upset, something or someone out there is doing great. If Joy Reid is joyless, there is joy for others. She's basically just a tool to measure amusement. Check this out.
Kind of bile off of Twitter.
Ah, yes, but it's the good kind of bile, because we finally have a competent straight white man in charge. Thank God for South Africans.
As much as possible was the company's Trust and Safety Council.
A phrase that's about as authentic as "that's Joy's natural hair."
Which consisted of 100 independent civil, human rights, and other organizations.
I'm sorry, you lost me at civil human rights when Chinese state officials and Iranian ones were on there. Oh, but Trump was somehow the problematic one. Not to mention, when it came to clearing CP, Twitter was softer on that than Elton John at the Playboy Mansion.
Created back in 2016.
To make sure Clinton wouldn't get overrun by the Trump train, before she was knocking back alcohol faster than Bill Clinton goes through anyone that isn't his wife.
To combat hate speech, child exploitation.
Which we now know, thanks to Elon, was rampant on Twitter and nothing was done about it. I wonder why. It seems trust in safety was more, don't worry, trust us to keep anyone who we deem a Nazi away from the platform, whilst we make sure your history of illicit sexual perversions are kept safely a secret.
Suicide and other virulent problems related to the platform.
Hey, you know what you can do if Twitter makes you suicidal? Try eating your phone.
Well, that was the case until last night, when Elon Musk disbanded the group shortly before they were set to meet.
Unfathomably based.
When Musk bought Twitter, he promised advertisers that it would not turn into a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said with no consequences.
God, I wish that did happen. Wouldn't that just be a wonderful place? But as usual, Joy is lying. What else is new? The journalists who revealed Elon's information couldn't stay on Twitter. They got banned, so suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, well, since he took over, that's exactly what it has turned into.
Oh, are you gonna cry because regular people can talk without you censorious cockwits rupturing your assholes about it? That must be very painful for you. The latter, by the way, not the former, although both are gonna result in the gushing of some liquid. Would you like a tissue? I'll let you decide which hole you want to plug first.
Which, while he claims to have cut the number of times that users view hate-filled tweets, the Center for Countering Digital Hate has found a notable boost in the number of tweets that use slurs.
And who gives a damn? Seriously, if you are offended by slurs on your phone using a service that's free, might I comment on the fact that you're quite the thin-skinned bitch and maybe get the hell off the platform? Or, and here's a racy idea, try to broaden your horizons to combat this, say, taking a stroll through 4chan's poll board. Seriously, after you see more swastikas in the Third Reich, trust me, Twitter will look like a deserted paradise, and you might have some very, very different opinions.
Now, as you can see on the screen, there are 4 words, none of which I can say on TV, even on cable.
Just by the way, I know the latter is plural joy, which means more than one, seeing as you have the IQ of a parrot's asshole. But if you were to read out all of those words, you'd be reading out 5, not 4.
That have jumped in usage, one as much as 200%.
Do you think she'd be honest about the fact that it was something like, I could swear it was either 30 to 50 or 300 accounts that was responsible for nearly all of the increased usage of that top phrase, spamming it to essentially stress test Twitter under the new management? It's like benchmarking the place. Not to mention, Joy, if you think nothing is done about this, how about you put your money where your mouth is and tweet those words and see if you get suspended? It will either prove you have privilege on Twitter, or you get treated like every other asshole who says those phrases, and you will look like a git for one reason or another.
Musk promised that hate speech would be max deboosted, Except, according to the Center for Countering Digital Hate, that has not happened.
Who in their right mind, and by that I mean anyone who isn't a frothing leftist, would ever take seriously an organization called Center for Countering Digital Hate? That is Twitter's Trust and Safety Council with a different name. Who are you freaking kidding? They're just a censorious propaganda arm. In fact, when I looked them up on freaking Wiki, which is leftist as balls, so you know the information about lefties is going to be quite reliable, they published something called the Top 10 Fringe Publishers that were responsible for pushing climate change denial, otherwise known as common sense against the science. If this isn't already screaming red flags from the frickin' rooftops, here's the list. Breitbart News, The Western Journal, Newsmax, Town Hall, Media Research Center, The Washington Times, The Federalist, The Daily Wire, and Russia Today. I think it's safe to say maybe they're a bit biased.
High-profile, high-reach tweeters who just so happen to share conservative political perspectives have had wide leeway to promote hatred toward LGBTQ plus people. In fact, some of their tweets were viewed millions of times.
Wow, it's almost like they were censored or suppressed or shadow banned or some shit. Isn't it curious the moment Twitter gets new management, the right wing surges? I'm sure that is just a coincidence.
This is the new old normal for Twitter. Because the goal, apparently, is to get back to the days when Twitter was the Wild West.
Yeah, you know those days where people weren't a bunch of f***its and people could listen to different views and opinions, when being edgy or controversial was, fun. When men didn't have testicles the size of raisins and every word uttered by a woman wasn't taken as gospel. Those days were fun, weren't they? Mind you, I was about 10 years old at the time.
Of anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, racism, and disinformation.
Yes, we'd all like to get rid of that, but unfortunately, you leftists are still on Twitter.
This free flow of unbridled hate speech is now the premier location for radicalizing millions of people across the globe.
Can you imagine being such a spanner that you think merely seeing a difference of opinion is going to radicalize you, and that Twitter, of all places, was somehow going to do that? You have to be either extremely detached from reality to believe that lump of wank, be a liar, or have no idea what information really lurks on the internet. My views would be considered radical by these people's standards. I don't know if I can call them people. Drones, maybe. I didn't become radical thanks to Twitter. Hell, I went hard right reading books and listening to the dumb shit these drones try and peddle as news. I was thinking about this earlier. The leftists, they're basically primates at this point. They've devolved, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. I mean this in a technical sense. Look at the pervasive destruction of language. Through repetitious sloganeering, they have hollowed out words like radical, Nazi, fascist, you know the ones. They no longer have any meaning in the definition sense to these people, that is if they ever did. But they still elicit some kind of an emotional response, which makes them react like zerging monkeys. In that sense, these words have become pretty much just noises emanating from people's faces. Think of your words as sounds triggering a reaction that they can't intellectually compute because it's contradictory. What's their default response? Rage.
And either ritually abusing or chasing away those they disagree with.
As opposed to goggling the FBI's nutsack and getting your tatas in a twist when the owner of my private company slaps your ilk on the wrist, huh?
Including the former head of Twitter's Trust and Safety,
The degenerate f***it who was trying to get younger people into gay apps. Do forgive me if I don't quite shed the tear as to his present safety concerns. Mind you, considering his proclivities, I think putting him in prison would be far too inadequate to suffice as a punishment. That little twink would get thrown around like a rag doll. He would be more loaded than an 80s metal band. He would go from top of Twitter to a bottom in prison.
The moderation guy, who's now in hiding because Apartheid Clyde keeps attacking him on Twitter.
Wow. See, comments like that work far more to stir racism and radicalization than Twitter ever could. And she's just this hateful gremlin because she can get away with it. If someone said that same kind of BS about her, holy crap, we all know she would gush like a waterfall and milk it for every damn minute she could grift. And that is all for today. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.